Meeting will come to order, please. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act for this meeting have been satisfied. Would you please take a second and turn off electronic equipment as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Attention, salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Becker?
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg?
I am here.
We have one special item for discussion. That is proposed ordinance 17 of 2018. Who would like to start that discussion? John?
I will allow Roger to give us some details, and we can discuss it further from that point.
Sure, thank you, Commissioner and Mayor. As you're aware, the 2016 Comprehensive Master Plan discusses the idea and recommends the idea of allowing boutique hotel condo overlay zone within the city of Margate. And I will read directly from the master plan. It says the city of Margate's 1985 master plan and 1990 master plan reexamination discuss at great length the large volumes of hotels and motels in the city and the need to convert a number of them into permanent housing. In 1981, hotels and motels were eliminated as a permitted use in the city. The plan to convert hotels and motels into condo-style units was implemented after adoption of the 1980 master plan and was alarmingly successful, as the city currently has no remaining hotels or motels. Currently, the only transient housing available to visitors to the city is through private rentals of homes, townhomes, or condominiums. All of these rental options are for longer-term, multi-day or week-long stays. So short-term, 1- and 2-night stay accommodations are not available in the city. At the time, the elimination of hotels and motels as a permitted use was viewed as a way to stabilize the city's population. As you're aware, the population was booming at the time. More and more residents were moving in, create additional housing units, and create a better sense of pride in the community within the city. To a large extent, the city was very successful at achieving these goals. In the 1990 reexamination, the policy was deemed to be so successful that it was recommended that the no hotel policy be continued. Allowing for a new hotel was viewed as detrimental to the community at this time. High turnover rates for hotel and motel guests create an inherent reliance on local businesses and restaurants. The lack of food storage and preparation options require these types of visitors to frequent city businesses more frequently than second homeowners. Hotel and motel guests tend to spend significantly more money in and around their transient housing location than seasonal residents staying in owner-occupied housing. With the conversion of hotels and motels in the city to condominium units, the local transient visitor population has nearly disappeared from the city. There are non-traditional short-term rental properties options available in the city that are accessible through popular rental sites on the internet. While these private rental options are available within the city, many individuals are not accustomed to or comfortable with these types of rentals. Additionally, these types of rentals typically require multi-day or week-long stays, so they do not provide the type of flexibility offered by a hotel. In an attempt to quantify the availability of privately operated transient housing, a September 2016 review of popular owner-managed rental unit sites was conducted, and the following results were reported. As you can see, company website, VRBO, approximate number of units available, there were 40. Airbnb, there were 25 units available. Craigslist of South Jersey, there were 10 units available. Transient lodging in the form of hotels and motels was once a staple industry in the city. It was determined in the late 1970s and documented in 1980 master plan that Margate needed to significantly reduce. I think we already touched on that. So jump down to the next paragraph. It is the board's recommendation to bolster its tourism economy. The city is in need of transient lodging units, and that this need would best be addressed in the form of a hotel tower or some combination of a hotel condominium tower. The most appropriate location for this type of development is the area from Atlantic Avenue to the beach, from Monroe Avenue to Cedar Grove Avenue. Given the presence of existing vertical development in the area, a hotel or hotel condo combination tower in this area would not be out of place or scale. The board recommends that an overlay zone for this area permitting vertical development of hotels or a combination of a hotel and condominium complex be established. Regulations for such overlay should pay special attention to the preservation of light, air, and open space and view corridors. The development ordinance for this overlay should aim to ensure that the overall facility design will approximately complement and utilize the natural features offered by the adjacent beach. That concludes the overlay zone recommendation by the master plan, which was introduced and adopted by the city's planning board last year. As a result of that, our consultants with the city have modified our zoning ordinance to accommodate the recommendations of the master plan, and I believe that I did a consistency report, and I have found that the recommendations by the planning board and the zoning ordinance are consistent, in fact, with the master plan.
Thank you, Roger. Mayor, may I give the general public some background so that they understand what Roger just read from the master plan, which was a recommendation from a committee and professionals that were hired through a grant we received. The city of Margate received a $242,000 grant back in 2015 to study, which is state mandated. Every 10 years you review and make changes to your master plan according to the census and how your city is moving in the direction that they're moving. Those meetings that started back in probably under Roger Rubin in June or July of 2015 commenced for almost 2 years. Those meetings, stakeholders in the community, faith-based community, all the religious groups, all the realtors were invited, all the contractors were invited. Residents were invited, business owners were invited. We hosted meetings for over a 6-month period of time every week to get the input of the different concepts and ideas that the stakeholders in the city had. With that, the professionals went to work. There were a group of 4 professionals that were the team that were our planners and our master plan review committee. It was led by our engineering firm, Remington and Vernick, with the assistance of Sosh Architects. They're a local base. We had an energy engineering company that was a part of that team. And who was the 4th part of that team? An economic factor that told us what we needed to do to keep Margate and move forward. So with that concept in mind, it was totally transparent, it was open, and the recommendations were implemented. Both the commissioners and the planning board reviewed that. They adopted the master plan last year in 2016, and now the zoning changes that are being put in place are a part of all that work. I just want to reiterate one thing. Whatever exists doesn't change. This isn't mandatory. It's a concept that was brought to our attention to give us an idea to allow people, since we're 65% a second homeowner town, to allow those individuals that bring guests into town to have an opportunity. If someone was interested in developing a condo hotel or even a hotel, we would welcome a boutique hotel if they could find area along that strip along the ocean that would give them a chance for their visitors and friends alike to come. A lot of people utilize Atlantic City hotels, but if they bring their families, they don't want their kids in that atmosphere. So all those concepts were brought to the table, and as we progressed, where we're at now, it was in a 9-0 vote at the planning board last Thursday, which I attended, and there were a lot of questions brought to the table. And as I said at that meeting, it's not something that's mandatory. It's not something that might happen or might not happen. It's a situation where if someone's interested and they want to convert and possibly do this, they have to go in front of the planning board for all their approvals. But let's put one thing in place. It has to start with the DEP, and I believe anyone that does, any developer that has an interest in doing it, they would have to get a CAFR permit, a DEP permit, and then we would be the last part of the position. They would have to come in front of the planning board for the approvals that the planning board would want. So with that said, Mayor, if there's any questions from the commissioners, Roger and I can answer, or Scott, that's all I have to say.
I know you're all here to hear the department head reports. I'm kidding, of course. What I'd like to do is maybe give everybody up here a short time to go through our normal department head reports, then we'll open up for questions or comments. Okay? Is that fine? Frank, why don't you start? You have 3 minutes.
Next week, we're going to start taking down the temporary gas pumps in the Public Works yard. We started cleaning up the beach. We're taking the enclosures off and removing the signs and everything. We're also preparing for Florence. We're keeping an eye on her. We've made up sandbags, and if we have to, next week, we'll remove the rest of the things off the beach. We're also preparing for Fun Fest that's coming up in a couple of weeks. We had a meeting yesterday that went real well. Everything's going to be able to be placed in the right spots down on Amherst Avenue. We also had delivery of 2 beach tractors today that we will be using next season to clean our beaches. And we're going to start reading water meters September 10th. That's all I have.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you for the good job you continue to do. Jim?
I don't know if I could take
Jim,
3 minutes.
There's people here. Why don't you tell your name and tell everybody what you do, what your position is.
Good evening, Jim Galantino, the building inspector from Margate. We've been really working on job site cleanliness. It's become a really strategic point in our daily schedule. We've noticed a lot of contractors have just let their sites go hog wild. So now we're not, like I said, we're not taking any more inspections, and now we're going to start taking them to court. It's just gotten out of hand. I mean, the trash complaints every day, it's just a continued, it just seems like 3 or 4 of them just don't want to keep them clean. So we are working at very hard. The other thing we did, we adopted the new map August 28, 2018, and we're working on a little agenda that we want to go around and meet Roger and I will go around and meet the realtors and explain the map and the new height, the 3+1 to the underside of the, 3 to the underside of 4 joists and additional 1 foot. This way they can explain it to their new potential buyers or something that, to be able to understand it. So we're working on a little agenda. It's going to be not very long. Maybe we can go to the different offices and hopefully we can explain it to them in detail. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jim. Roger?
Thank you, Mayor. Roger McLaurin, zoning officer, planner, purchasing agent, etc. Also, in the zoning ordinance modifications, it's not just the hotel overlay zone, but there's a lot of general ordinances that really have needed to be fixed for a long time that people are relying on that we need to really look at. There's a lot of great things in this ordinance. One of them being adjacent properties creating a variance for a property that fully complies. We're getting rid of that. That's just one of those silly ordinances that ended up in this ordinance that we're getting rid of. Another ordinance that we're going to allow is additional height for parking underneath to create more open space on properties. Side yard setback requirements and rear yard setback requirements for garages and sheds where none exist today. Also for driveways, we're trying to get driveways away from side yard lines and make friends with neighbors, not enemies. And that's pretty much it.
Good point.
Good job, Roger. Ed?
Hi, Ed Wahlberg, city engineer. I'll start with the Angler Roost site investigation. That is complete, we're done, and the DEP has canceled the invoice that we had outstanding, which was not valid, so we're very happy about that. You'll never hear me say anything about it again. Reconstruction of Burke Avenue, we received the bids on the 23rd. It's on the agenda to be awarded to asphalt paving system, a low bid of $441,500. We also received bids on the 23rd for the redevelopment of well number 8. Well number 8 is the well adjacent to the tank by the Thai school. AC Schultes was the low bidder at $88,856. So that's also on the agenda. The curb and gutter program is ready to go to bid, and there is a authorization on the agenda also tonight to authorize us to go out to bid for that project. We're in the process of preparing the application for the next state aid transportation trust fund. And the only other thing that's happening, we did have a meeting with the gas company, and we're still trying to get all the punch list items resolved with them from their project, and they've been very cooperative, but there's still a lot of little problems out there. The other issue is I did meet with the Army Corps and the DEP today regarding the commencement of the project, and I believe Dawn will bring us up to speed on that. I did not attend the status meeting, but I did meet with them out on the beach.
Ed, you have it?
I have nothing to add. No. If you want a status report on the startup of the Army Corps job, I did speak earlier today with Dave Souther from Walters Marine. They will start mobilizing small equipment Monday to start to eat into the dune where they're going to do the next drainage system. That will take place in the Mansfield Avenue area, I believe. They won't bring in big pieces probably for another 3 weeks, and material will be delivered in 3 weeks. So they'll more or less be starting the bulk of the job in the end of September with a completion date sometime in mid to end of February, where everything will be restored to what they say is their finished product. That's all.
Thank you. Dawn, do you have anything?
Just one thing, I did want to clarify that Rich wanted you all to be aware that there was a conversation earlier about the capital ordinances, and just some brief comments about the fact that your current ordinance that you were considering is going to be higher than what you thought it would be. And part of the explanation for that is the fact that normally you were planning on doing 2 ordinances, one earlier in the year, one mid-year. And the plan is adjusted for your 2019 ordinance, you're only going to be doing 1 ordinance. So this ordinance is going to appear higher than normal. However, next year's ordinance will probably, as a result, be lower than normal. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Dawn. Chief?
I'm David Wolfson, Chief of Police, and I have nothing to report today.
Chief?
Dan Adams, Fire Chief. Just a couple quick things. The protected bathing beaches that will be open for the remainder of the season through Sunday will be Claremont, Huntington, Thurlow, Washington, and Madison. And then they will also be open the following weekend. After that following weekend, all protected bathing beaches will be closed for the season. And as a reminder from the Chief of the Beach Patrol, please only swim at guarded and protected bathing beaches. The beach transport program, Commissioner Mayor, was very successful this year and very helpful to the residents. I want to just throw one thing out for the fire department. I've had 2 or 3 different report requests from insurance companies for fire incident reports that never existed on our end. Residents had some sort of fire or type of incident at their house, and it was never reported to the police or fire department, so we had no documentation for them for the insurance company. So if you have any type of fire or emergency in your residence, please call the proper channels, get the fire department, the police department out there, because then when you go to your insurance company, we will have the proper documentation for you. And on a final note, we have the 9/11 ceremony on Tuesday morning at Fire Station 1 right here at Washington and Ventnor. It'll occur at 10 a.m. Just a brief remembrance so we never forget 9/11 and the occurrence of what happened. It'll be approximately 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. And on a positive note, I want to say that Public Works Department, specifically Anthony Edge, has been doing monthly playground inspections, and they're very detailed photographs. I mean, our playgrounds have never been in better shape because of recommendations and things happening. So, hats off to the Public Works Department and Anthony for taking care of that. And thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Dan. Scott?
Be very brief, Mayor. As you know, our ongoing efforts to try to dredge out our back bay areas and lagoons involves some grant applications. We've made one grant application to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation through the efforts of Jim Rotella. And I'm happy to report that Senator Cory Booker took the time to actually look into the situation and wrote a letter of recommendation to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. It's dated August 27, 2018. I'll just paraphrase. I'm writing in regard to the City of Margate's application for 2018 National Coastal Resiliency Fund to grant the Shelter Island Wetlands Restoration Project. So the members of the public understand, Margate City owns half of an island in the Back Bay called Shelter Island. Used to be a sewer plant there many years ago, and we're trying to get approval to be allowed to restore wetlands and also put our dredge material. If we're ever allowed to do that, it would be very cost effective for us to be able to dredge our back bays. Anyway, I thought it was somewhat impressive that a U.S. Senator from New Jersey took the time to sign this letter and send it into where it will do some good, hopefully, and I'm happy to report that. That's what I have.
Thank you, Scott. Maury?
I just have one thing, Mike. I wanted to take the time to thank Public Works, the Police Department, the Fire Department, all the city employees that work in the municipal complex for another great summer. The extra effort that we put forth in the summertime does not go unnoticed, and for that I want to say thank you to everybody for another great season. Thank you. That's all I have.
John?
Yes, Mayor. What I wanted to do as we were faced with this past year, the first year of having dunes on our beaches, we had a lot of requests for handicap access, and I'll get into the transportation concept in a few minutes. But what I had done is I'd asked Chief Wolfson to do a parking study for the availability of handicap parking spaces on our beach ends towards our bulkhead, specifically where we have our cut-throughs, our breaches in the bulkhead that allow our handicapped individuals and our moms and dads with children in carriages, getting them down to the beach, and even transporting equipment, chairs and umbrellas down to the beach. The specific areas, and what the chief did is he did a total study. I'm going to give Scott a copy. Frank should have one too. And there's an availability that we can create 35 handicap spots on probably, my guess is about 30, 35, 39 streets throughout the city, wherever we do have those handicap accesses through our bulkhead, street and bulkhead. So I think it's time, and I think it's a good concept that we allow some of our more handicapped individuals to be able to park down there and have that easy access. So I would like the support of both commissioners that the chief could proceed. We have the next 8 months ahead of us where our street lining crew can start doing the work and posting the signs.
We're good. Move
Okay.
on, Chief.
So that moves on to the beach patrol transport concept that we discussed earlier this year, and we rented one 4-passenger beach 4-wheel drive beach mobile to help our handicapped individuals to get to their place of destination down by the water. We found it to be a very successful program this year. It gained momentum as as people caught on. And on the downside, our beach patrol took control of it this year. And what I'm looking at for next year, we're going to sit down with Chief Adams and Chief Smallwood of our beach patrol sometime in October and November and come up with a plan where I don't have to pull our lifeguards or even our lieutenants and chief to transport people. We're going to look at bringing in another 1 or 2 vehicles because it's starting to catch on, and I can tell you the reason why I feel it's catching on, because when we started the program back in June 23rd, we had 11 transports that week, and then the next week rained. As we were all aware, we had 7 consecutive weekends of rain. We only had 4. But as we went through the season, it went from 35 to 37, 62, 83, 75, 95, 63, 96. And Labor Day weekend, over the 3-day weekend, we had 192 transports for a total of 703 for the season. So I feel there's a necessity that it's out there and it's working. And we did it this year just as a trial and error, like a pilot program, to see how successful it would be. It's proving as the summer went on and the word got out and people saw it, they were starting to use it. So we're going to sit down and make a recommendation to the commission, the full commission, probably in November, of possibly hiring 3 or 4 18-year or older individuals to be able to work this beach patrol, the beach transport system for our elderly and handicapped individuals. So that's my report for the night, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm good. I have nothing new to report. Fred?
And you. I'm good.
Johanna?
I'm good.
Okay. So at this point, our normal process is we open for public comment. If you care to say anything public, please come to the microphone, state your name and address. You have 3 minutes. You may discuss at this meeting, you may discuss anything that was discussed here at this meeting. Okay? Is there any public comment?
Hi, Susan Rubin, 117, 115 South Osborne Avenue. I have a couple of questions I'm hoping maybe you can answer. You referenced about the meetings that you had, the 6 focus group meetings you had in 2015 and 2016. Is there a public record of those meetings available? And how do we get them?
Roger.
There's minutes for those meetings, I believe, right?
Are they on the website? No. So I'm just asking, how does one get a copy? And I'm sure there's a roll call taken.
No, there was no.
There's no. So
They were invited guests.
they were invited. So how can we find out what guests were invited? Is there a way to know?
Wouldn't the clerk have records of that?
There's a signage.
The sign-in sheet? Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious because I saw in the master plan that it was mentioned that second homeowners were interests were well represented, and I'm just sure by who, because I didn't even find out about these meetings until about 2 weeks ago. So I'm not sure where you post your notices, but I don't think that most of the majority of taxpayers were even aware there were these meetings. So I'd like to know who was representing my interests in these meetings.
Can we find that?
You also made
Mrs.
reference.
Rubin will look for that information and get hold of you.
Okay, thank you.
All meetings were advertised as public record.
And where are they advertised? Are they advertised on the website? Are they advertised in a
The
local
Atlantic
paper?
City Press.
The Atlantic City, so if you're not a subscriber to the Atlantic City Press.
That's our legal.
We followed the
document.
law.
That's fine, that's all right, I'm just trying to find out where to look, that's all. I will look, believe me, I think a lot of people are gonna be looking from now on, just curious. The other thing I have real quickly is, you made a reference that transients support the local businesses, especially food establishments, more than the second homeowners. Is there actual hard data on this? Like, where did that come from? Somebody saying it, or is there actually, I'm just curious as to where that came from.
The author of the master plan must have included that in there.
But do you have those, I mean, it sounds like it's a conglomeration of people that were in the master plan.
As a recommendation of the committee that was part of the master plan subcommittee.
Okay, so do we know who that committee is? And I'm just curious where the information came from, because I don't know if it's true or it's not true. It sounds a little odd to me, but that's okay. You also made a reference in the in the master plan. It also says that, trying to remember, sorry about that. It also says that during Monday through Thursday, that the restaurants are dead in Margate in the summer. I'd like to know where that information came from, because I want to know where they are, because I can't get reservations anywhere. So I'm just curious. I mean, am I the only one? Am I right? Okay. So it's just curious. I'm not sure where this information is coming from. It sounds like people are just having chats.
We'll get back to you on that too, because we obviously.
Okay. Now, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to ask this, but since it was brought up in the discussion of the wonderful.
Mr. Real, we have a lot of people.
I'm sorry.
Don't
Just
mean to
real
be
quick.
long.
Just real quick.
Can you be real quick?
I will. It's going to be very quick. You mentioned how successful the buggy program was for the handicapped people, and I really commend you. I think you did a great job, and I know it helped a lot of people to enjoy the beach this year. I guess I'm going to bring it in this way. If we were to build a boardwalk, would that program be able to continue?
Probably not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment, please?
Why? They have.
Sir, did you want to make a public comment?
Robert Block, 4 North Brunswick Avenue. Funny thing is that Ventnor has a boardwalk, and son of a gun, don't they have people going over those ramps with the vehicles you're talking about for handicapped people? It works. It works there, it can work here.
Sir, you misunderstand. The vehicle we have is actually it's a 6-passenger if you include the driver, so it's 5 passengers. It's a 4-wheel drive, handicap certified vehicle that people get strapped into, and they're chauffeured from the street end where they can come.
Okay.
So if a boardwalk's there, we can't go underneath the boardwalk.
You don't have to go underneath the boardwalk. You'll have ramps going to the boardwalk and a ramp going from the boardwalk to the beach. And they have them down there. They're wide, and they accept those kind of vehicles. Very simple. Thank you.
I don't see what you're talking about.
Emily Zaydan, 6 South Decatur Avenue. When I first heard about this hotel overlay zone, I thought to myself, why these 6 or 7 blocks? Why not 6 or 7 blocks north, 6 or 7 blocks south? The only reason I could come up with is there's one parcel in that area. And this particular parcel, the owner has been mentioning for several years now that he wants to sell, okay? So I guess I'm going to be blunt here.
Yes.
My question is, has a deal already been made? Has these people, these commissioners, these board members, spoken with this individual about, hey, if we do a hotel overlay zone, are you ready to sell it now? We cannot have hotels on this island, okay? Right now, the congestion is unbelievable. You can't park. You can't cross the streets. The trash, the undesirables that we do get with the transient population coming down here. You want it more family-friendly? We don't need transients in a hotel room on Memorial Day weekend. This is not something that 12 people should decide. This is a referendum vote, okay? And I'm going to tell you, I can guarantee that 80% of these people will be against this. There will be a mutiny if this happens. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else, please?
My name is Frank Lauletta, I'm a new property owner on 1 North Benson Avenue in Margate. I'm a transplant from Avalon, and I love Margate far better than I ever loved Avalon.
Thank you.
Two topics. My corner floods every time it rains. I don't know if there's a process to eliminate that flooding at the corner of Ventnor and Benson. That's the number one issue, and I don't know if you have an answer to that. Number two is, I understand that the board has approved this conversion on the beach to hotels, or was approved, but there's limits to it, or you read a report? I'm not sure what you said.
Well, just briefly, it's in a.
Has a
It doesn't
resolution?
change. No, it was a recommendation from the master plan, which professionals recommended it based on the input from this, what I'll call the stakeholder meetings. Whether it was realtors, business people, you know, there was residents. We had 30-some meetings over a course of a year and a half to 2 years. And the input was, people were looking for the availability, and we talked about boutique. When I say boutique, small sample hotels, areas where we could get weekly, weekend people to come into town, have places to stay. Naturally, it's nothing that's mandatory, it's a recommendation. No zoning changes in that area. This would just allow a developer that had interest, that might have bought a parcel of property along the ocean front, that could come in and buy out the residents, tear down a building and maybe build a condo hotel, dedicate X amount of rooms in that condo towards weekly, daily rentals. It would have to have a full-service lobby.
I guess the question is, if I bought the greenhouse, can I put a hotel there?
That would be one of the, yeah, absolutely.
Can it? So that any
Well, no,
developer...
you'd have to go through
Sure,
a process.
sure.
You'd have to get permitting, you'd have to come in front of the planning board, and the planning board would have to give actually the final approval. There's a process.
Okay, but it does have the ability...
If this
it
gets written
passed.
into an ordinance, it doesn't mean it happens. It might not ever happen.
Thank you.
Sir, your name and address, please?
Yeah, my name is Ron Jackson. I'm at 7 North Monroe. I've been in Margate about 40 years, okay? And I was here when they first finished the Island House. And then the next high, I think the Margate Towers was here first, and then 9600. I think an ordinance was issued there, no more high-rise. The one thing about Margate, you do not want to block the beach because Margate is the beach. And I just feel very strongly about it. Now, first of all, I think I was apprehensive about the dunes going in. I guess as a lot of us were, but I have to say it's a beautiful job. It looks very nice. I have company coming. They all like it. They think we have the best beach in anywhere on the East Coast, and we don't want to ruin that. That's for sure. If you ruin the beach, you ruin Margate. If you block the beach, you ruin Margate. You do not want to do that. And my other comment is on the handicap parking. First of all, I think it's a terrific idea. But one rule must exist, because I've been to places where I've seen it. You're going to get people taking grandma's car, and they're all going to the beach, and they're 15 years old. You must have a handicapped person in the car requiring the handicap facilities to park there, because you'll never get a spot. It will never happen. I'm quite sure of that. So the other thing, which I think was a great idea, you have those blue covers going over the dunes. They seem to only go about halfway, but I think extending them up to the top would be an asset. I don't think that's a full requirement. It's just something I felt about it. But, all right, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
My name's Henry Gorenstein. I'm at 9100 Atlantic Avenue, the Island House. I've been spending summers down here in Margate since 1975. This is very emotional for me because I've seen Margate go from what it used to be to what it is today, and it's an amazing place compared to what it was. We had hotels down near the bay, all over the place, across the street from the Allen House. I stayed at them sometimes. You don't want hotels in this town, I'm telling you. That's number one. Number two, I don't want to get too hot here, but I take what you said to the residents here as an insult to our intelligence. You're saying the zoning is not changing. It's an overlay. You're adding zoning. You're not taking away what's there. You're taking the existing zoning and adding additional uses you can put there.
Yeah, exactly.
So why don't you tell them in a layperson's fashion so they can understand? I would appreciate that.
You said.
Okay? I'm a real estate developer. I guess you can tell. This is the first project I've ever complained about in my whole life. I know your planner's company, R&V. I'm in front of them a lot. It's a wonderful company, but I'll tell you, you dropped the ball big time on this master plan update. Big time. Lucy. Lucy's a historic landmark on the National Register and the State Register. Wasn't even mentioned in the master plan update at all. Zero. She doesn't exist. How about if you build a high-rise?
Her picture's on the front cover.
Yeah, that's about it. But how about the impact to her? So you didn't forget her, you just forget about the impact to her. You build a high-rise. There's like wind vortexes that created from high-rises. In the Allen House, if you try to walk out the back door, the elderly people fall down. We've had people fall down in the parking lot from the wind. What is that wind concentration is going to do to Lucy? Blow her into Atlantic Avenue? I mean, really. Also, crime. I mean, check into it. I've got 10 articles here about sex offenders that stay at hotels. Do you want sex offenders in a hotel next to a park like Lucy, where the kids are at? I mean, where's the common sense? Honest to God. Did the police chief do a crime study as part of the master plan? Did he? Mr. Chief, could I ask you straight? No crime study. The whole thing's faulty. You need to do more homework before you pass this thing. If you pass it, it's just a farce. And, you know, and also on top of that, I should stop, but maybe I'll take some other people's time.
No, you're good.
But,
You're good.
but I'm looking at this is what you put in the,
You got
whatever.
25 seconds, sir.
Okay.
Good. No, we don't do that, sir.
You don't do that, because you don't want people that.
Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. So, okay, this is Mr. Becker. I guess you're Mr. Becker. You're the one that you don't want me to speak anymore?
No, I didn't say that, sir.
Well, that's you, yes, you did.
No, he didn't. I want all the rest of these people to speak also.
You fought the dunes because you thought it was bad for Margate, correct?
That is correct.
You also fought eminent domain because you thought it was an abuse of power.
Correct.
Yes, correct or not? Well, what you're doing right now is an abuse of power to all these people here. You're abusing your power. Now, who we got next? We got Mr. Amadio. Amadeo, I'm sorry.
Sir, I have to
apologize.
say, your time is up, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
I wanted to address you and also the other gentleman, Mr. Blumberg. But I would really appreciate it greatly. Like I said, it's emotional for me. You're making the wrong decision, and please save our town because it's got, like I said, it's amazing right now. There's not, you got revenues. You don't need the money. You don't need the ratings.
Anyone else?
The developers are greedy also. Don't forget that.
There should be a fresh comment.
Sewell, 22 West Drive. Following up on the remarks of our esteemed solicitor, reciting supposed grants pie in the skies, we still need this commission to act in its fiduciary capacity and to give us a guesstimate, an estimate, on what these dunes, not the dunes, but what this dredging project is going to have as a projected cost. I think that might be a job for the city engineer, along with other parties. But you've got to do it. You can't run this like carte blanche. Same thing for that wonderful projected boardwalk that you want to put up. That also requires projected costs. People have to know before that referendum, what's it going to cost taxpayers? Particularly when this board does not want to take immediate action to consolidate the schools and to sell off Thai for what it's worth. Secondly, Commissioner Amadeo mentioned that the Army Corps of Engineers, their settled job. I don't know what the exact wording was, but the bottom line is that that will never be a settled job as long as we live and breathe, because it's inadequate. The Army Corps of Engineers itself will tell you that the life expectancy of a dune is approximately 45 minutes in a hurricane or a good nor'easter. So, pardon?
2 days.
That's not what the Army Corps of Engineer has said on the record. It's 1:17, Mayor. Just be quiet.
Thank you.
Just contain yourself. The time will fly by quicker than you might imagine at this stage
I
of the
will do
game.
my best.
Yes. So I want to see,
However,
but you're on my time, Mayor. You can talk after the siren rings. But we must have a master jetty at the end of Longport in order to trap the sand from the same reason that they built the Apsecan jetty, to keep the waterway open. We've already had one death there by a towboat operator. We don't need a second or third. It's very dangerous to hit a sandbar at full speed. You can easily get killed. And I think that the master jetty, especially when the solicitor's good friend, Cory Booker, is sending love notes to him. And Mayor, you might want to put that earring on the other side when you talk to him.
John, you're absolutely wrong. I think I need another one. That's why I read it.
Hi. Glenn Klotz, 118 North Barclay Avenue. I'm a longtime resident, as all of you know. I've been here most of my life. I was here when the height limit was basically put on buildings in Margate after the 9600 condominium was built. That was 48 years ago. I'm not exactly sure of the date, but it was in the early 70s. I don't see any compelling reason, okay, to change that at this time. I think the community, over the course of the last 40-some years, has spoken very clearly over and over again. This is not a new issue, okay? And many of us who have been here for a long time know that. And that's what this boils down to, okay? I don't see it as an issue about, I'm not anti-business, okay? And I'm certainly not anti-large projects, since the community knows I'm proposing a boardwalk, okay? That's a public project. That's not a private project, however, in a public space. I think this is about private businesses, okay? And I think it's about eliminating that height limit, which, look, I know that all of you have the right to do that. I know that. But is it right to do it? And are you going about it the right way? That is the question to me. And I don't think you are. I think you need that this finally, after all these decades, rises to a referendum. Let the community decide whether or not this height limit should stand. Okay? All the other issues, motels, this and that, I don't want to even go there. Okay? What I'm concerned about is the height limit. Okay? That was the original concern of the community because of the way our beach is set up. All right? So I don't want to see any more high-rises in Margate. And I think most of the community, if asked today, that question is also not going to want more high-rises. I think it's that easy. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Good evening. My name is Robert Baranowski. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Highland Levin, representing some of the residents of Island House and the association. I just want to make it clear for the benefit of the public who have come here tonight and given some comments during your work session that this is a work session meeting, and your actual second hearing and the actual hearing on second notice, and at which time the ordinance is proposed to be passed, is on September 20th. Isn't that correct?
September 20th.
So no formal action will be taken tonight, but if you want to make comments on the record of the actual hearing, September 20th would be the time to do it, correct?
That's
So
correct.
I'll be presenting our comments at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for clearing that up. Any other public comment?
Hi, Nick Palmisano, 510 North Claremont, and I'm going to be unpopular.
because I believe that putting the hotel overlay in is not a bad thing in the city. And I think that getting some visitors into town that may do other things when the second homeowners' houses are empty is not a bad thing. So I think that people will go to restaurants. I think that people will do things like go to the new golf course, which I fully support. I think it's great. And I think we need more family things like that in Margate. And to counter what Mr. Sewell said, don't close Thai School. Use Margate schools as the asset they are to promote Margate, to attract more people to live here year-round, to attract more families and more kids so that the city can grow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Be respectful.
All right, let's be respectful, folks, okay? Any other comments? Mike?
Hi, Stephanie Block, 4 North Brunswick Avenue, Margate. I, too, am not anti-development for this town, but I do not see that or think that the people of Margate want a whole zone or even one more high-rise than we already have. Because what does a high-rise bring to the city? Crowds of people, thousands of more people on an already crowded section of the beach, because that is the most populated section of Margate right now due to the high-rises that currently exist. It's also the most popular area of the town if you go towards the Bay Area. That's where all the very good restaurants are, the bars, the clubs. It's very popular. You add 200-foot high-rise buildings in this zone, you're going to have thousands of more people, some desirable, some not desirable. I don't know who would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy into a condo complex that also acts as a 1 to 20 day transient hotel where you can get all kinds of people. I mean, does Margate want to turn into, down the line, the new Northeast Miami Beach? I don't think so. Does Margate want more traffic? Do the walkers, do the bikers, do the general public want more traffic on the street in the summer when these people would be here? Does Margate want residents want a longer wait to get into all the restaurants in the whole city that they do populate during the summer? It's Margate who goes to these restaurants, Margate people that come here. We don't need more people to fill up our restaurants. The good ones are always packed. And I understand that the commission in 2 weeks can just vote this ordinance in. Maybe there's nothing in the works. I kind of think there is. I kind of think this has been brewing for months and months. I, too, am on the Boardwalk Committee. I met, along with the other members of my committee, with Mayor Becker, Commissioner Blumberg, and I was absent for the meeting with Commissioner Amadeo. But none of you told any of us this is in the works. My concern is, I understand the hotel issue. I don't like it. I don't think Margate needs it or wants it. And if you do build these hotels, if you do build them, what's going to happen to the infrastructure? What's going to happen to our sewer system? We'll need a better sewer system, maybe another water tower to accommodate all these new people. Where's the parking going to be?
Thank you, Mrs. Black. Last chance. Any more public comment? Please come forward.
Good afternoon, David Grossman, 308 North Jerome Avenue. I am a full-time resident and hence do vote in the city areas. I am very much against the commercial area as it was stated. However, forgive me if anyone else brought this up, but I am willing to support it under one condition, and that includes supporting everybody here for re-election or whatever. And I realize what a quid pro quo is, and it seems like you're trying to make it into like an Ocean City type environment. The thing with Ocean City is they also have a boardwalk. If we had a boardwalk, it would obviate a lot of the increased traffic that we're talking about on Atlantic Avenue. And I will, sometimes you have to dance with the devil, and I will support this if a boardwalk is agreed upon first, in conjunction with it. Okay?
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else, please? Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes,
Okay. There being no other business, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.